Hello, I got a request from this curtain cloth. That's what I'll show you how to do. So I'll just select this reference plane and duplicate this. Apply edit poly. And now I'll just insert a loop right here and right here. I'll select this polygon, Control I and delete. And now I'll just move this a little bit lower here. So for the final product, you may want to create a more complex and rope object here. But for simulation, we can use something similar like a torus. So I'll just create that right here. I'll go into the front viewport and I'll move this up here. Alright, about right there. And now what I will do is actually just make a copy of this after applying edit poly. And I will select all the vertices and scale this outwards. Alright. And now I'll select this object and apply a morpher modifier. Pick object from scene and pick this duplicate. As you can see, the name right here now changes to torus 002 from empty. So it's no longer empty, there's now some information being stored here. And the name of that stored object is the same as this object right here, torus 002. So now, if I go from 0 to 100, it's now going to match to the information of this object. The movement of the vertices here, the transforms of the vertices. So now what I will do is just go all the way to 100. And also you can click right here, and you can see I changed the animation length from 100, which is the default, to something higher, let's say 300, because you may want to give yourself more room to animate, more frames of animation. So now I'll press N to go into auto key, and I'll go to, let's say, frame 100, and now I'll right click on this to make it go back to 0 and press N to exit auto key. And now it's going to go from this to this over the course of 100 frames. Or 101 if you count 0. So you don't want it to go too fast. For example, if I cause it to go from 100 to 0 in 20 frames, it could cause some problems with the simulation of the cloth here. I'll give this a red material. And now I'll just select these edges and connect here. Insert some more edges to make this more even here. And now I can apply, let's say, turbo smooth. You can give this as much detail as you want. The more complex this is, the more complex your cloth will be and the longer it will take, but it will also be more detailed and more accurate. So I'll just use, let's say, 4 iterations. I'll also move this over this. Perhaps make it a little bit larger here. And now I'll change the name of this from plane 007 to cloth. And I will apply cloth modifier. Self collision. Go into object properties. Add objects. Add torus 001. That'll be a collision object. And cloth will be cloth object. I'll just make something simple like cotton. But now if I simulate, this whole cloth is going to fall down. So I actually want it to be hanging up here. So I will create a cylinder object. I'll just rotate it and position it right here. And now I'll go into the first object level group. I'll select these top vertices here and make group. I'll just call this group 001. Use solve selection, get from object, and now here I can choose node and choose the cylinder right here. So now these vertices will be attached to this node, this cylinder. And now I'll scroll down here and use simulate. So here's the result after 146 frames of animation, or 147 if you count the 0. But notice that right now this cloth is kind of symmetrical here on the left and the right, whereas in the reference image it's more flat here on the right and more curved on the inside. So what we can do is select the torus, press N, and set the key right here. And then go into frame, let's say 200, and move this to the right here. So I have a basic animation happening right here. So I'll go back to 146 and simulate, and it will start right where it left off. And here's the result of some more simulation. You can see I'm pretty much shifted from the left to the right here. So you can just make small adjustments here until you get the exact shape you want. If you want more detail here, more folds, you can simply increase the amount of iterations when you apply Turbo Smooth to get more geometry here and more subtle, detailed folds here. Now I can just apply symmetry, get the same result on the left here as well. Perhaps do some further simulation here, just to get it to look a little bit different from how it looks on the right. Alright, and now also this cloth in the center right here, we can make the same way. So edit poly, insert loops, select, Control I and delete, and insert some segments through here. Alright, there we are. Turbo Smooth. And now I'll just apply edit poly here and just select these polygons and detach as clone. Apply a shell modifier, outer and inner amount. You can just select these edges here, loop and remove. Do the same for this as well, and delete these polygons. And apply a shell modifier, this time just outer amount. Alright, and once again I'll just create a clone here and select these vertices, move them all the way down here, and once again morpher, pick object from scene, pick this object. I'll just go all the way back to 0 here and move this to 100, press N, go to frame 100, back to 0. Now it gets animation happening right here. But we also want some kind of objects to hold it in place on the left and on the right here. So I'll just create two spheres here. You can really use any object that you want, including point helpers. Select both these objects, press N, go to frame 100, and move them both up here. So I have this basic animation happening right here. Alright, select this object, which would be the cloth object. And the name of this object here is Object 064. I'll just call this Center. And this will be Cloth 2. Apply cloth here. Object properties. Add objects. Center, which would be the collision object, and this would be once again cotton. You can also increase the centimeters per unit to something higher. Alright, and I'll go into group, and I'll select these vertices right here, just this vertex. Make group, group 001. Use a little bit of soft selection. Get from object, node, and select the sphere. Do the same for the left. Select the vertex, make group, group 002. Soft selection, get from object, node and pick this sphere right here. So now these groups will follow their individual sphere objects. We also want to hook the top up here. So I'll just make a clone of this object right here. Alright, and now I should be able just to click on simulate and see the progress. And here's the result. Now this came out a little bit messy simply because there's not really enough density here to capture all this detail. You can see how the object doesn't really have enough density to properly be simulated here. So we're going to have this little bit of a messy detail. But if I were to add more iterations when I apply a turbo smooth, then this will look a lot better here. And there will be a lot more accurate, neat details here. But this is what I have so far. And I can just kind of move this back here after simulation to connect with other objects. Thank you for watching and take care.